I want to tell you that my opponent is so stubborn and so extreme. He often uses the words not negotiable and no middle ground to discuss what he's doing.
This is, again, what you would expect out of an elitist from D.C. whose own neighborhood has more security than our border.
The candidates for U.S. Senate taking shots at each other on the topic of immigration. 8 News Now is your local election headquarters. And tonight, the Senate debate right here in our studio, a fiery debate at the center of the political conversation here in Nevada. 8 News Now investigator Kyle Payne watched the debate closely and interviewed the candidates. Kyle.
Brian, it was the only face-to-face Senate debate in advance of the November 5th election. Right here where I'm standing, broadcast all over the country. And as you might expect, the candidates, who I didn't actually interview, had a lot to say.
This administration, on day one, President Biden went in and started dismantling the secure border and the policies around that we have. Now, here's one of the things that an insider like Senator Rosen won't tell anyone is that she sits on the Homeland Security Committee. She's supposed to have our back.
The challenger, Sam Brown, aligning himself with former President Donald Trump on one of the most divisive issues in the 2024 election, immigration. And the incumbent Senator Jackie Rosen, who Brown criticized for only going to the border once in her 6-year term, says she's been there multiple times.
Since I've been in the Senate, I've been calling for comprehensive immigration reform, one that secures our border, one that stops the deadly flow of crime and fentanyl, has a humane and orderly asylum process, and pathways to citizenship.
And on the topic of abortion, Brown defended his record on women's reproductive rights.
We need to refocus on supporting women. I also stand by Nevada's law that allows for abortion up to 24 weeks. I stand by and allow that we should allow for women to have exceptions for rape, incest, and threat to the life of a mother.
But Rosen said Brown is against any exception on abortions, even in the case of rape and incest. And she supports restoring the rule of law in Roe v. Wade.
A doctor's office and a hospital room or an emergency room is too small a place for a woman, her family, and her doctor to have a politician like Sam Brown, Mitch McConnell, or anyone else sitting in there telling them what they can and can't do.
When it came to local issues,
I'm glad that this is something that I think there's a bipartisan opportunity for us to work together on.
The two candidates found some common ground on former President Trump's proposal to stop taxing income service industry workers make on tips, which some critics say could cost the country $450 billion in lost revenue.
If we eliminate taxes on tips and Social Security benefits, that could be the difference between someone not being able to pay their rent, not be able to afford their groceries, or having that stable life.
It's a measure the local 226 Culinary Union supports, and Senator Rosen correctly pointed out that all hotels and casinos on the Strip now employ union workers. But she doesn't want no taxes on tips to benefit the wrong people.
The other thing we have to do when we work on these bills is make sure we put in guardrails so that giant corporations, those greedy CEOs that are ripping you off, making record profit quarter after quarter, don't decide that their salary or bonus is a tip and they don't pay taxes.
And on the drought on the Colorado River, both candidates stood firm on their positions that the other basin states do their part to conserve, like Nevada does.
I would demand that California become more responsible.
To make sure that everyone is doing their fair share and everyone is using and developing the best water smart technologies that we can.
In addition to some of those questions that we were expecting to hear, topics like inflation, immigration, and abortion, 8 News Now investigator George Knapp quizzed the candidates on whether Congress should do its own investigation into UFOs. Senator Rosen said yes. Sam Brown said he was curious, but maybe doesn't trust Congress to do it. Brian.
Kyle, well done with that. Thank you. The Senate race now in high gear, especially considering early voting starts on Saturday. New voters wishing to receive a mail-in ballot must register to vote by October 22nd.